Welcome, Sundry readers! I hope you enjoy today's story. Please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Happy listening! New Faces, New Friends by Arleta Richardson. Chapter 13. The Meaning of Hectic. Ma stayed with me for a week, and I was pleased with the routine we established. "Are you sure you'll get along all right without me?" she said anxiously as she packed her things to leave. "Of course, Ma. What could go wrong? I feel just fine, and Alma is a good baby. She sleeps most of the time, and there's no more house to take care of than there was before she came. Besides, Len will be here if I need anything." Ma looked doubtful. "I don't know, Mabel. You've never done anything like this before. You don't know how much care a small baby needs." "Ma, I've been handling 16 or 18 children for 3 years now. What makes you think I can't take care of one who weighs less than 6 pounds? "All right," she said. "I hope you know. Pa will be happy to have us back home." She started for the door. "I'll be glad to stay another week if you need me." "No, Ma, thank you, but we'll do just fine. We'll see you at Christmas time if the weather is such that we can travel." Len took them home, and I hummed to myself as I busied myself getting supper started. Len should be back in a couple of hours, and I'd surprise him with something he really enjoyed, a rice pudding. A search of the cooler revealed that there were no eggs in the house. "Oh, bother," I muttered to myself. "I'll have to run out to the hen house." I grabbed up the basket and threw a shawl over my head. Halfway down the porch steps, I whirled around and went back in. I couldn't leave the baby alone. Rushing into the bedroom, I picked up Alma and wrapped a blanket around her. I held the basket handle in my teeth while I tried to pull the shawl around me with my free hand. I opened the door, then slowly shut it again. After putting Alma back in her cradle, I sat at the kitchen table with the shawl still on and the empty basket at my feet. Where could I put the baby down if I took her out to the hen house? I couldn't leave her on the floor while I searched the nests. I couldn't put her in the roost with the chickens. I couldn't hold the basket in my teeth after I'd filled it with eggs. Slowly, the truth dawned on me. I could never leave my house again without planning what I would do with the baby. If there was no place for Alma, there was no place for me. Here was something I hadn't anticipated. I was stuck until this child was old enough to fend for herself. As the tears ran down my face, I thought wildly that I should warn Sarah Jane to reconsider. Life as she knew it would end when her baby arrived in January. As if on cue, Alma began to howl, and I ran to pick her up. A dry diaper and a full tummy took care of her tears, but mine continued as I worked on Len's supper, minus the rice pudding surprise. By the time he returned, I was outwardly calm, but inside I was badly shaken. During the next few days, I discovered that while I considered myself fairly well organized, Alma was not. She had no particular time to demand attention, no discernible plan for meals, and no definable schedule for sleeping. "If only I knew when she'd want something," I wailed to Len. "I'd have it ready for her. When it's time to eat, she's sleeping. When it's time for a bath, she's eating. The next day, it's the other way around." Len was sympathetic, but aside from walking with her when she cried, if he happened to be there, he couldn't offer much assistance. I began to think I had let Ma leave too soon. It might have been smarter just to have her move in. A couple of days later, I tackled the job of giving Alma a full bath in the small tub we had for her. Len had built a good fire in the kitchen fireplace before he left for work and brought Alma and her cradle out to wait for the occasion. I stoked the wood range with as much fuel as I felt would be safe. The addition of a washtub of baby apparel boiling on the stove made me confident that I could safely remove Alma's clothes and begin her bath. Several heavy towels padded the table in the event that she wriggled out of my grasp. Talcum powder, oil, clean garments, and blankets stood ready, and a final check assured me that I could begin. I was just ready to put the baby into the tub when Augusta appeared on the porch.
"Come in,"
I called.
"I can't come to the door."
Augusta came in with a look of alarm on her face. "Mabel, what in the world are you doing? There's steam coming out from under the door. I thought you were on fire."
"I'm bathing the baby,"
I said proudly.
"It's the first time I've done it alone, and I don't want her to catch cold."
"Catch cold?" Augusta gasped. "It must be 95 degrees in here. You're going to steam her like a plum pudding. Whatever gave you the idea that you had to burn down the house to bathe a baby?"
"I guess it is a little warm,"
I admitted.
"but I couldn't take any chances."
Augusta opened the door a crack and then sat down to supervise the procedure. When the baby was dried and dressed, I placed her in Augusta's lap.
"There, you can rock her while I remake the cradle. I thought I was going to have to leave her in the center of the table until her bed was ready."
Augusta beamed and settled back in the chair. "She's a pretty nice-looking baby," she granted. "Of course, you cooked her until her hair curled, but apparently she has her father's disposition. She's not complaining." By the time Alma was back in her cradle, the room had cooled to a reasonable temperature, and I tackled the washing. Augusta visited while I washed, and I caught up on a bit of town news. "The church looks beautiful. Hiram thinks we can have the Christmas service there. You should be out by then, don't you think?"
"I surely plan to be,"
I said.
"I would have come last week, but Ma thought it was too soon. I guess she was right. I get tired quicker than I thought I would. And I was the one who vowed not to let things get hectic."
"You've done real well, Mabel," Augusta said. "If what I hear from new mothers is true, you don't know the meaning of hectic yet, but you'll manage. Here, let me take those things out and hang them up. You're still so warm you'd go out there and get a chill."
"Thank you, Augusta. I'll fix us a cup of tea." "That will take her a few minutes,"
I thought.
"I'll sit down for a few seconds before I get the cups out."
I sank gratefully into the chair Augusta had vacated and promptly fell asleep. When I awoke, it was to the sound of dishes rattling and the oven door closing on a batch of cookies.
"Oh, Augusta, how long did I sleep? What a terrible thing to do. Why didn't you wake me?"
"If you haven't heard me banging spoons and bowls, you needed the sleep," she said. "Have a cup of tea and a couple of cookies, then I must be getting on home. I'm glad I got here for the big event."
"Come again, Augusta," I said. "And thank you for the cookies. Len will be so pleased. He hasn't had any since Ma baked last week."
A glance out the window told me that darkness was falling and I would need to begin supper right away. When Len came in about an hour later, he stomped the snow off his feet. "Does the lady of the house happen to have a clothes basket handy?" he said.
"What in the world do you want with a clothes basket?"
"I almost put my eye out on a piece of frozen flannel. Then I saw that the line was full of it."
"Oh, the baby's clothes. Augusta hung them out and I forgot all about them. What is the matter with me?"
"Never mind," Len said. "I'll get them. They're stiff enough to stand alone, but I guess they'll thaw in front of the fireplace." He brought the clothes in while I put supper on the table, and I told him about Augusta's visit while we ate.
"I'm sure things will get better,"
I said.
"All the mothers I see look sane. Just think what Flora Abbott has gone through with 2 sets of twins. Augusta said that I didn't know what hectic was yet, but I think I know as much about it as I want to."
Unfortunately, Augusta was absolutely correct. Every day seemed to bring a new crisis that I wasn't expecting. Sarah Jane came down daily to encourage me and watch how it should be done.
"If you didn't stop by, I wouldn't know that there was a world outside this house," I said.
"The other ladies are planning to come too. They want to be sure you've gotten your strength back and fill up to the company."
"Gotten it back? I think I'm losing it faster than it's returning. But Ma Williams says Alma will start sleeping longer than 2 hours at a time pretty soon. That will be a relief, I can tell you."
After an exceptionally bad night the next week, I was dragging myself out to the kitchen to clean up when Sarah Jane arrived. She threw off her coat and stood looking around the room. "Mabel, what on earth has happened here?" That table looks like a pig's breakfast." I stamped my foot and burst into tears as Sarah Jane looked at me in amazement. "Well, maybe it doesn't look quite that bad," she conceded.
"Yes, it does," I sobbed. It looks worse. The whole house would make a good pigsty, and I can't do a thing about it. I'll never get it cleaned again, or go shopping again, or sleep all night again."
"Whoa," Sarah Jane said. "Never is a long time. Tell you what, you go lie down and I'll straighten things out here. Then we'll bundle Alma up and go to town, and you'll come home with me for supper tonight. I'll send Thomas after Len. How does that sound?"
"It sounded like heaven,"
I reported to Len when we were home again that night.
"Trust Sarah Jane to know what to do when I fall apart."
The week before Christmas, Ma surprised me with a visit. She and Violet stayed overnight, and it was amazing how much smoother things went with Ma in charge for a day. Alma occupied most of my attention, but I hadn't been aware that I was excluding everything else so completely. Violet had just turned 4, and she liked to be known as a big girl. Whenever she visited me, we would read together or play games. Now, I was not available on demand, and the discovery didn't please her. She tagged around after me as I cared for Alma, folded clothes, and tended to the numerous chores that never seemed to end. When I finally sat down to feed the baby, Violet stood by with a scowl on her face.
"What's the matter, honey? Are you unhappy about something?"
I asked her.
"I don't like that baby very much," she replied. "I thought you were pleased to have a little niece," I said. "You've been looking forward to it for months." "She wasn't supposed to take my place," Violet protested. "I can't play with her, and she takes all your time." "Little babies do demand a lot of attention," I said. "But Alma will never take your place. You are a special little sister, and you always will be. The baby will grow fast, and then you will be able to play with her."
Violet was comforted, and when Alma was asleep, we went for a walk, built a snowman, and then sat together in the rocker to read a story. By the time Ma was ready to go home, Violet was happy again in her role as Auntie. End of chapter 13.